CLA! Oh my God, he's so awesome. You actually call him by his initials as if he were an artist, but he's a mixer.
We should make a song using his plugin.
Yeah, oh my God. Oh, we're totally gonna make a song called CLA. We love CLA.
We do not love CLA.
Oh, and that's
we kind of like him.
No, we kind of. No, we're gonna trade. It's like I love CLA, I don't, and it's like you're a newbie, and it's gonna be like you're a grind.
Why don't you do something that's useful?
We're gonna do it. We'll post it up in a month.
Hi, Brad Gilderman here. We're gonna do a little talking about this new plugin, the CLA Mixdown plugin. Always been a fan of CLA. I think a lot of his techniques are great. He's a great engineer, great mixer, but it's not the end all. That's Chris Lord-Alge, and I think it's also really important that we all be ourselves. I don't want to be a Chris Lord-Alge clone. I don't think anybody should really be a Chris Lord-Alge clone. I love his techniques. We should use them, but use them to best fit you and to create your sound and your sound for the artist. This plugin's targeted really towards all of you home studio engineer guys. I think it's useful in a professional environment. It has its place. It's got its things. But this plugin's geared towards all you great home recording engineers out there. We use it in the studio too. We might use the real hardware and stuff like that. I know at LBR we've got the console, we've got the real thing, so we do it. But this plugin is geared towards all of you at home.
It's easy to forget when you're making music and cranking out stuff and downloading, like, oh, CLA came out with something else. Let's see, what are you doing? Can I use this template, or I got it from someone else's? Guys on that level, the guys that, the Sheps, CLA, Pensado, the guys that come in work with you, these engineers, producers, they've tracked it super high end. The material that comes in is not mid-level, usually. So it's tracked on a nice mic, nice preamp, nice EQ, great ADD converters. It's hitting Pro Tools, and you've already, through equipment that's like half a car. It's not about price, but and it's also been professionally engineered. It's done in a real vocal booth. So you have to take that into consideration. Like, oh, if I slap this on, it's gonna sound just like his stuff. So that's something to consider when you're going plug-in happy, or when you think that all of a sudden it's going to make my stuff sound just like that. Because I'm a plug-in tweaker guy. And something I've learned from you is listen. You're always screaming at me. Listen. A lot of engineers go plug-in happy and they don't realize maybe you might not need everything on, might not need the drive on, might not need the basics. Maybe it's okay flat. Just use a little bit of the glue or mix something in parallel.
This plugin, especially this plugin, is something that I don't think it's a plugin that you just put in right away and you start to go and, hey, that's the magic button and you're ready to rock.
No, absolutely not.
I think it's really important to get your mix up, get a balance, get things going, spend some hours on your mix. I know I do. I know Chris Lord-Alge does, spends 3-4 hours on a mix. Yeah. Then that's when you put in this plugin. You put in something on your stereo bus and do it there. Otherwise, you're kind of just defeating the purpose. You're making it your only sound, the sound, and you're mixing into it and trying to make that thing happen. Instead, make your mix great, and then hopefully when you put that on, just like he's saying, it becomes the sweet spot, and now you take it to another dimension.
Right. You've already got your balance. Everything is individually EQ'd and compressed before you're pushing into that. If you slap that on, while you're EQing a track, you're undoing that EQ. Now, I know some people throw their compressor after their EQ. That's a conversation for another time. But even if you do that, it is affecting everything you're doing. Throw it in maybe after you're several hours into your mix, I think, or at least a couple hours into your mix. And you've got everything sounding great individually. You're starting to combine. Then you throw the inserts on it, and then you give it a little bit of love. And I think the better your mix is going into it, the less you need that. I think it's just salting. It tastes just like your parallel compression. Everyone's like, oh, I parallel everything. What if you don't need it? You might not need it. Don't be afraid to just engage it and barely kiss it. Like years ago, I used to be a part of a studio complex, and we would turn around the rooms and do recalls and reset and assist and do changes and vocal up, vocal down. We would go in, and it's not sneaking in because we're allowed to go on. We take a look at the settings, and you're just kissing that compressor. You're just kissing it because the compressor has a sound. It's not just doing a job, controlling level. It has a sound. So with CLA Mixdown, I would encourage people to just engage it, just where it is, and kind of see, and just move the lever a little bit. Go too far and then dial it back. And then when you think you have it right, I guarantee first few times it's still too much. Dial it back in, and you'll love it.
Gives you my 2 favorite flavors for mix bus compression. After those flavors, it gives you EQ. It gives you bass and treble. I've picked the ultimate mastering curve, or the curve that I use for my bass and treble boost in my mixes. So you can either turn them off and just be flat, or you can add low end and top end to add some shine and some oomph to your mixes.
His stereo bus chain is the SSL console, which you can drive hard. That's that pushing the console, hitting the stereo bus harder. That's his
And you
glue.
start to hear like,
So remember, that's part of his thing, is the SSL, so it's emulating that. We know as big fans of his that he loves the Focusrite Red compressor. So I'm sure those are his 2 settings on the compression side. The glue, if you will, of his plugin is probably a sharper attack and probably a looser attack of the Red compressor, the Focusrite Red. Also, I know he loves to use Pultex on his stereo bus, which I'm assuming is probably his bass in treble that he's going. So, I mean, these are great things. Now, I think the plugin for the $29, what the hell? Let's go for it. I mean, I'd be interested to see what happens if I put on an E-strip, a Red compressor, and Pultex, and see if I can match it and get something like that. But I mean, this is, you know, for people at home and stuff like that, what a great place to just plop it on and start.
In my opinion, with this plugin, like, you're getting a lot of emulation of different hardware for a pretty good price if you think about it. If you have the Focusrite compressor with an SSL and some sort of Pultec EQ curves in just one thing that's very simple to use, you could get similar results by like buying the plugins that emulate each of these parts individually. But for hobbyists and people that are just trying to get it to sound better quickly, this might be like a good choice economically for them.
great choice for if you're in that demo, because it gets you really, really close, really fast, and it's easy and it's painless. As long as your gain staging is okay.
Remember, watch that gain staging. Watch your gain staging. It's because if you're going into those plugins in the red and slamming it, you're really not getting the best out of the plugin. You're just saturating it.
Also,
you're just overloading it, digital overload. So make it a decent level. Keep those things going into your plugins at a decent level. But they are a great place to start. And I agree with your statement before that, listen, you could try to model it with a Focusrite. You could, and plugins.
But what would that cost? Come on.
But you've got the plugins and you do it. But remember, those are still plugins. The one thing I'm going to say about this plugin is that it's modeling his console, his output, his hardware, his stuff in one box.
Because every console is unique because it's analog, unlike digital plugins.
Absolutely.
So you're getting like CLA's own SSL, his own,
which is great. Just remember, try to make it your own.
When people first get a plugin, when I first get a plugin, there's some times when I'll be like, oh, check out this plugin I just got. You'll yell at me like, you're overusing it. There's always a tendency to overuse something when you get it because it's your new favorite toy. Your new favorite toy, there's a tendency to, it's like a relationship. Plugins are a relationship. When you meet that person, you want to spend as much time as possible with that person. You know what? Maybe. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
No, continue.
So it does. You want to spend as much time as possible. Don't throw it on every channel. Don't crank the knobs to like 11. Salt to taste. Develop your relationship with the plugin. You'll love your mix more.
To continue down further with this analogy, if you were overusing the plugin, what does that really look like in a relationship?
You know what? You burnt out. You got overloaded and you neglected your friends, you neglected your work, you neglected your music. So now you're angry at the person that you might have actually fostered a relationship and had a family with, and you break up because you just went too hard too fast. So essentially, don't overuse CLA.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Like
CLA Mixdown.
No,
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just
use
a little.
What I usually find when I get sessions in, and people are using the CLA stuff, and they do, they tend to do exactly what you say, kind of overuse it a little bit. They kind of compress a little too much. I find they're good, and they're used to that sound, so I might find myself backing it off a little bit, a little less of their punch, a little less of whatever it is that just is giving it that sucking sound, if you will.
Consoles are overrated, right? We should just use Fruity Loops and sausage fat and everything. Soundgoodizer, yeah. Sausage fat and soundgoodizer.
Love sausage fat here. Love it.
do you use it?
Just for fun because it's a good GUI. Hey, listen, the GUIs are deceptive.
Yo,
because-
but you're talking about how CLA's plugin is dangerous because you don't know what you're boosting, but sausage fat is literally one knob.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I know,
so
but here's why
it's three knobs.
No, but here's why I like sausage fat. No, weigh in on this. The more you know what you're doing, the more awkward it is to deal with like a one knob plugin because you want to
Okay.
see the meter. You want to see a meter. You want to know what you're boosting. You want to have that affirmation. At the same time, you get a little bit lazy.
Right.
Okay, why do people love sausage fat? The GUI, love it. And so, does a plugin manufacturer take time to make it look good? Does the Pro Tools look good and colorful and et cetera? There's something to be said for being inspired by the environment that you're in, whether you have 2, 3 monitors, whether the plugins are colorful, you're looking at your meters, whether you've got the lava lamp, whether you have a bunch of inspiring people there, or whether like you're getting blown up from, on your cell phone by some job that you don't want to go to because you want to do your music. Like the environment contributes to the output. So I would say the humor of Sausage Fattener and the fact that you what is it, one knob or two, a couple?
3 knobs.
And the guy's going like,
Yeah.
I remembered, I haven't used
Yeah.
it in years. You throw it on it almost to see. This goes way back to when I worked in Enterprise and was with the guys under Dave Pensato. I would see him churn out these amazing assistants. They'd spend 1 to 2 years under his wing, and I was a manager at Enterprise. And we'd talk to him, and he'd say, "Just try some stuff. There's no rules. Just listen." And so I'm like, "Try Sausage Fattener." So that philosophy is like, throw it on and see. You might like it, you might not like it, and just turn it. So it's almost like, I remember chat roulette. You never know what you're going to get, and it's probably a setting that you might not have done. So there's that, and there's also just back in the day, you put tape over the meter so you just listen. It forces you to listen and not be a meter freak, because I sometimes listen too much.
Why is CLA so successful when there's so many great, amazing engineers out there? Why is CLA the one that has its own plugins?
Well, there's a few guys that have plugins. There's Tony Maserati,
Right.
and there's Manny, and Jack Joseph Puig. Listen, these guys are great engineers. Why there's not an Al Schmidt plugin, I don't know. I mean, these guys, as engineers go, I didn't even know it was there, but, as branding goes, listen, Chris Lord-Alge has branded himself pretty well as, Mr. Engineer.
Right.
And I give him respect for that. He seems to be the guy. Like, listen, my mentor and my guy who I look up to, which I know Chris does it, Bob Clearmountain. Where's a Bob Clearmountain plugin? Give me that. It's weird. Pensato doesn't even have a plugin.
Right.
That's true.
Because
Yeah.
he is plugin.
I hope
Material.
people don't necessarily get fooled by it, that it's like, hey, just slap this on.
Right.
And all of a sudden, oh, wow, you found the magic mix button.
You're suddenly CLA.
Right.
Yeah.
It's set it and forget it. It's the autopilot for Mixdown.
I mean,
Silly.
I've been looking for that magic mix button my whole life, where I could just put something on it, hit a button, boom, it mixes it myself.
No, it's
You sure it's not the Ampex tape saturator from UAD?
Well, it helps a lot. I'll tell you.
Mixing and plugins, it's all additive. Like everything contributes. People are like, where should I spend my dough? This is not much money. Should I spend, if I had X, do I spend it on my monitors? Do I spend it on my plugins? Do I spend it on my microphone? Do I spend it on my insert? Where do you spend your money? Everything contributes. You got to figure out, based on your nut, what it's worth to you to have a $4,000 mic, or a 2 preamp, or real inserts, or the latest greatest from CLA, even though it's only, 29 or it's upgraded for 14, whatever that is. What can make the biggest difference between where you are and where you want to be for the least amount of price?
I'll give the CLA, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I think it's a really good unit. I think it's great for people at home. I think it can get you somewhere fast if you use it properly.
I actually love the fact that they didn't go berserk on the GUI. Like, it doesn't have to look crazy like something from outer space. It has to look like a professional GUI. They spent the time, energy, and money probably on the development of the sound, the algorithm. That's what a plugin should be, because it's not about, oh, this is kind of crazy. Unless you're soft.
I don't mind crazy looking plugins.
For people that are 100% in the box, this is definitely a buy. But if you have your insert chain and you really know what you've done with your own template, and you have something like Mixkin parallel with Sound Toys Decapitator and giving a little bit of that, a little bit of the bump. If you're doing Kramer tape also on the insert, if you've got 5 to 10 inserts, not just because it's fun, but because you really know what you're doing with that, then I think you might love this a little bit less, because you don't necessarily need to get 70% there. You know how to do it yourself. If you're in a major recording studio, you have hardware inserts. You've got the Manley MSLC, you've got Avalon 82055 EQ, you've got the NTI EQ 3D, and that kind of stuff. It's not really a replacement or even comparable to that. But if you're 100% in the box, I think you're going to love it, especially for the price.